Good afternoon. This is CloudChartist with your weekly Ichimoku wrap-up for the week ending October 28th. This is Sunday night, October 30th. I apologize that I did not upload a video last week. I actually made a very good one, but I had some kind of problems with my internet access. Thank you very much, Comcast. That problem is yet to be fixed. They couldn't come for a week, but so hopefully I'll be able to upload this tonight and you'll be able to see it. So we're going to start off looking at the ES weekly. We see that last week we put in an outside candle. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. Put in a higher high and a lower low from the week prior. Because of this, the trend is still down for the moment. We did actually put in a pretty equally sized topping tail and a bottoming tail, so a lot of indecision in this market. Overall, this chart is still fully bullish, except for the fact that it's not over the Tenkan-sen. If you want to be fully bullish, you want to see price over the Tenkan-sen. But we are between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen here, so sideways price action in a range. We see we haven't really made it below the 50% of the Tenkan-sen to the Kijun-sen area so thus far. So we'll see what happens next week. We do have a supportive thickening and rising cloud going into the end of the year. This is the end of the year here. And then a little dip in the beginning into the first couple of weeks of January, and then we have a very nice rising cloud. So that's a potential view of things to come. Otherwise, so the 21.4475 level is crucial here, and that will definitely act as resistance if we do get bid up there. If we do find selling and we do break below this area, like around the 21.12 area, then we can expect to find support at the Kijun-sen below at 20.8650. Let's look at some other U.S. indexes. Let's look at the NASDAQ. Good comparison, actually, because the NASDAQ is still fully bullish. It is still above the Tenkan-sen. We did put in a new high last week at 49.1950, I believe that says. Yes, 49.1950. Let me zoom in a little bit. Oops, I don't want to zoom in that way. Pardon me, I'm out of control. How about that? All right. There we go. So we are flagging over the Tenkan-sen here. We see that the Tenkan-sen is ticked up. The Kijun-sen is also tipped up. This is a very bullish Ichimoku chart. If we do find more selling, we could look for a potential buy point at the Tenkan-sen. Tenkan-sen is currently at 47.72. 47.7238. It could open up there, or maybe slightly higher to reflect the new high. We will see. But so that wherever the Tenkan-sen opens up, it will act as support and could be a buy point for a move higher, since this is fully bullish. Similar chart situation as the ES. We do have a thickening and rising cloud for the time being, then a little bit of dip into the beginning of the new year after the Christmas to first week in January dip here, and then a very nice supportive rising cloud into the beginning of next year. Let's look at the Dow. Dow, like the ES, was unable to get above the Tenkan-sen. Did put a test of the Tenkan-sen in last week at 18.185. It put in a green candle rather than a red candle like the ES. Let me zoom in a little bit. A spinning top type long-legged doji. We actually did put in a higher high last week and a higher low. So we are in we're in an uptrend currently on the Dow. And so we can look at that current Tenkan-sen, or wherever the new Tenkan-sen opens up, 18,185 as resistance. And if we do get below this prior support area that we haven't been able to get below the last few weeks, besides this spike down here, if we do get below there around the 17,950 area, then we can expect to find support at the Kijun-sen at 17,792. All right, let's look at the Russell, which is the weakest of all the indexes last week, but there's an important significant level, some significant levels to look at for support here. We see that the Russell really fell off a cliff last week and was unable to get much over the Tenkan-sen. It did put in a spike over the Tenkan-sen, but then continued selling. Did close off the lows, so that's important to note. And if we want to know why, we can look over here and we can see that we have a flat cloud here that the Chikou, this red line representing price action, time shifted 26 periods into the past, so 26 weeks in this case. The Chikou did come into support at the top of the cloud at 1181.90 and caused a bit of a support bounce. You can see the low was 1178.20, so good 3-point bounce off when the Chikou came into the cloud support. So this cloud support still exists for next week, so we can expect that for potentially supporting the Russell into next week and perhaps catching a bounce. If we do lose the top of the cloud support here on the Russell, we can expect for a potential for support at the Kijun-sen below at 1170.10. Overall, this chart is still bullish, except for the fact that if you really want to be bullish, you'd like it to be back above the Tenkan-sen at 1220.90, thereabouts. All right, we are looking at crude here on the weekly time frame. We see that last week, let me zoom in a little bit. Last week, we did get a pullback on crude after this very strong uptrend, heading back towards the flat Tenkan-sen and the flat Kijun-sen below. Very mean reversion type stuff. We do also have a flat cloud below as well. So we could continue lower and indeed come into support at the flat Tenkan-sen at 47.61, or we could bounce here. And the reason that I say we could bounce here is we note that if you see this little yellow arrow, let me zoom in a little bit more. If you see this little arrow, you note that the Chikou, this red line here representing price action time shifted 26 weeks into the past, came into support at the bottom of the cloud, and that is why we have a little bit of a bottoming tail on this last week's candle. So we could actually find support here and continue higher. If not, we could come down and find support at 47.61. If we do not find support at 47.61, there is a good chance we will continue lower and potentially find support at the Kijun-sen below at 45.71. We also have some prior resistance areas here to reinforce that, some over here as well, to reinforce that support area as well if we do lose the Tenkan-sen. Let's look at some metals. Let's look at gold. So gold put in a higher high and a higher low last week, continuing the trend to the upside. We do have resistance at the Kijun-sen at 1289.50, and then once again at the Tenkan-sen above at 1300. If we do move lower, then we have these prior support levels, say around 1258, and then also down here around 1250. If we lose these prior support areas that we can see from the last few weeks, then we're looking at other levels, like basically down here at the cloud at around 1215. So if you want to be, if you're already long gold or you're interested in staying long gold, you want to be really careful when we get up to this 1289.50 level and 1300. The Chikou over here, the red line representing price shifted 26 weeks into the past, is interacting with these candles as well. So if we do get a move higher, we could find resistance at the top of this candle, which is at 1294.90. So that's actually in between the Chikou, the Kijun-sen and the Tenkan-sen here. So those are all, we're going to be moved over to this candle, so we're actually going to find resistance at the close, so 1289.70. So that's actually right, pretty much exactly the Kijun-sen being at 1289.50. So keep an eye on that 1289.50 area if you're long and you're hoping that gold goes much higher. Let's look at silver. Silver looks not nearly as bullish as gold. It's under the Tenkan-sen, under the Kijun-sen. you can notice here that the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen are very close together. That is reflective of a very tight trading range, and you can see that these tiny candles are also indicative of a tiny trading range. We do have a supportive rising cloud, despite the fact that the price action is under the Tenkan and the Kijun-sen. We also have the Tenkan is still bull crossed above the Kijun-sen. There's no bear cross, so those things are positive if you want to be bullish on silver. And this is a bit of a bear flag type action, but we could definitely see if we could go higher, maybe get up to the Kijun-sen level, back at 1852, and then see what happens. If we do go lower, we can look at the 1740 area for potential for support. Prior resistance turned into support. If not, the cloud is down here, all the way down here at around 1613 and change. So it's quite a bit lower. Well, not over dollar lower is real solid support for silver. Let's look at some bonds. Let's look at the 30-year. So bonds got kind of hammered last week, especially at the end of the weekend. The Eurobond also got hammered. It wasn't looking that good anyway, but it did get hammered. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we closed inside the cloud. That's pretty bearish. I mean, it's not technically pretty bearish. It's pretty bearish as far as I'm concerned, but technically it's just putting us from a bullish scenario into a neutral scenario. Whenever a price is inside the cloud, it's neutral, rather than if it's above the cloud, it's bullish. If it's below the cloud, it's bearish. You may be aware here that my cursor has locked up, so I will continue talking until that resolves itself, hopefully quickly. Won't have to pause the video. We note that the Chikou over here, this red line representing price action, time shifted 26 periods into the past, so 26 weeks, is under this candle here, and next week it will be under this candle here. So that level of potential resistance is, let's see, 163. Let's call it 163. That is also this prior support area where these two candles bounced. So if you want to be bullish bonds, we need to get back out of the cloud for first things first, and then as we move higher, we could potentially have resistance at the Tenkan-sen, which is probably going to be lower when the new candle opens up. I'm going to guess that it's going to be around 165.20 thereabouts, but we'll see wherever that is. So if we do catch a bounce on bonds, Tenkan-sen is going to act as resistance. If we do move lower, we will have some support where the Chikou comes into the Tenkan-sen, the Kijun-sen right here. And otherwise, so that's going to be around the 161.03 area. Otherwise, we have support at the bottom of the cloud here at 159.02. I'm going to look at the 10-year now. Ignore my phone ringing. I am going to do so. All right, we see that the 10-year actually is found support at the top of the cloud, so it's still bullish. But you notice that it did have some issues with the Tenkan-sen. Got the Tenkan, what I like to call the Tenkan smack down here at 130.150. That's still going to be a hazard for next week if we do get a bounce off the top of the cloud. We do have a nice supportive rising cloud though, so we could see a move higher, but Tenkan-sen is going to be trying to block that going forward. We also see that the Chikou over here is sort of stuck between the Kijun-sen and the Tenkan-sen and sort of stuck in the middle of this candle. So if we do get a bounce higher, then the Chikou is going to run into the bottom of this candle here at 129.29. And then the top of the candle that it could find resistance at is just pretty much around the same level as the Tenkan-sen, 129.215. So keep those levels in mind if you want to be bullish on the 10-year Treasury note. Let's look at the dollar. Dollar put in a higher high and a higher low, so the uptrend is still intact, but we have a red candle here and a potential graveyard, gravestone type doji candle, so looks like the potential for a reversal to the downside is pretty high. This is also a very strong breakout above the cloud. It would be healthy to see some sideways correction here, some flagging, pullback type action. We do also have a flat cloud top going into all the way into like the middle of, till like May of next year. So that's not particularly bullish for the dollar moving higher. That looks more like potential for sideways flagging type action, maybe even a pullback towards the Tenkan-sen, or towards the top of the cloud. So and let me just zoom out. So you see that we had this, really pretty fast move up in the end of last year, and then just sideways consolidation really throughout all of this year so far. Very, sort of choppy sideways consolidation. Even though it's, it sort of feels like the dollar's been going straight up. It's really been actually, this was 2 years ago when after this big move happened up, and then so we spent the last 2 years in this crazy choppy consolidation zone. All right, let's look at the Nikkei. Nikkei has been a good indicator for our markets intraday. So the Nikkei has made it from bearish territory under the cloud into neutral territory, and we got another candle close inside the neutral territory inside the cloud. We are still in an uptrend, so it's entirely possible that we'll continue the uptrend. If we do, we'll come into resistance at the top of the cloud up here at 17,903, and if we get a reversal lower, then we can find resistance at the bottom of the cloud, potentially at 170.19. We do also have the Tenkan-sen offering support down here as well. Let's look at the euro. Let's look at it via the 6E futures contract. So after several very bearish weeks, the euro caught a bounce last week and actually put in some tweezer type bottoms, and it didn't put in a higher high yet, but this could be potentially look like a bullish reversal type candle. The candle itself is bigger than last week's candle, even though the tail is higher on last week's candle. So if we do continue and reverse price to the upside, we're going to have resistance at the confluence of the Tenkan-sen and the cloud, which is around 111. So keep an eye on that 111 area before you get totally bullish on 6E. That will no doubt have an effect on stopping price action to the upside. And that's going to be it. So I'll let you guys out early this week. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in learning more about Ichimoku, I do have a chat room where I teach Ichimoku every day from 8:30 to 4:30, thereabouts every day. If you're interested, you can check out my website at CloudChartist.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below this on YouTube. If you want to continue receiving these videos and other videos I might put out during the week, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you gave me a thumbs up. And have a great trading week, and happy Halloween to everyone.